Successful. I'm Bob Bakert with Jazz Guitar Today. I'm here with my friends Otto D'Ambrosio and Dan Scatfold from Eastman. Full disclosure, we used to work together when I was at Eastman, and these are my buds, and I'm glad to see them. So hi, guys.
Hey, Bob. Good to see you.
Let's get right to it. What's new at Eastman, and why should the people at Jazz Guitar Today care?
I mean, really, the best thing going on here is how full steam ahead we are with everything. You know, obviously, it's been a crazy year to say the least, and we've come through it in ways that I didn't expect, to be honest with you. It's just that we've become so much more of a team than I think we ever even could have imagined becoming. And from our Chinese partners over at our workshops in Beijing to our friends in Europe, even out in Australia, everyone's just banded together in remarkable ways. And our production is flowing better than it's ever has. Our partners, our vendors, our pickup, you know, Seymour Duncan and Lawler and Daddario and LR Bags, and everyone's just kind of gotten together and really pushed through all this stuff. So that's been the best part of this year for me.
Yeah, it's one of these silver linings because of the pandemic is our partners and our workshop and the employees are really kind of coming together to make the best instruments that we can possibly make during this troubling time.
Well, you know, it's funny. I'll kind of dive right into it. You've got some new models that are really exciting, and I'm excited about them for you, and just because I had a little something to do with them. The Buscarino Cabaret. For those of you who don't know, John Buscarino is one of the preeminent luthiers in the world, and he's got a model called the Cabaret, and Eastman licensed the design, and John worked hand in hand with Otto to make sure it came out really, really well. And I happen to know John personally, and he's pleased as can be with the workmanship and how the product came out. And I know you guys are just beginning to ship those, so that's very exciting. And then and the other model that you have is the Romeo, which is when I was there, we called it the Modern Jazz. It got named to the Romeo because Modern Jazz wasn't a very good name, but it was a working name.
A working name. That was the
working name, yeah. And I was just talking to a local store here, Maple Street Guitars, and they got one in, and they sold it like in an hour.
Yeah, they were definitely over the moon about it. They actually
opened the door, and I called one of the sales guys that I know. I said, "So how is it?"
Yeah.
And he said, "Oh man," he said, "it's amazing. It's fantastic." So why don't you guys talk about those guitars a little bit? So those kind of address the the jazz market, even though we're not exclusively jazz, but pretty much so. I mean, why don't you address maybe first the Cabaret? Talk about that a little bit.
Well, I think you guys are actually pretty lucky, just because Otto's obviously those are his babies. And
I know.
Yeah, both launched at the same time, but the Cabaret. That one took really the extended amount of time to get right. It was, I mean, Bob, what was it? 2.5 years really? Before
2.5 years, yeah, from the start.
From the start. The Romeo was probably a little bit less, maybe 2 years. But yeah, working with John, what a privilege it is to learn from him and talk to him about his philosophy on jazz guitars, and this one being one of his most celebrated models. Is just so happy that he loves the guitar, which is nice after 2.5 years of work.
Right.
But yeah, it was a different concept for us, being that it's an archback guitar. So there was a lot of education with the workshop, trying to get them up to speed.
Right.
And building not a traditional classical, which was another thing that the workshop is extremely good at building classicals. But building the Cabaret is slightly different. The bracing, lattice bracing on the top is slightly different, and everything internally is a little bit altered, and dimensionally it's a little bit, off from a standard classical. So there was just a lot of training with the workshop to get them going. But yeah, there was a lot of changes throughout the process, but we think we arrived at the best model we could possibly make.
Well, working with John, I've known John for quite a while, and John is very fastidious, to say the least.
Yeah.
And for him to be pleased with the outcome that's a tremendous tip of the cap to you guys, the workshop, and all of that. So I know I have one coming my way, which I'm very excited about. But I mean, that's just it's a great instrument. It's, as you said, it's a very celebrated instrument that he came up with. It's really a nylon string guitar for jazz, and it's just a phenomenal instrument. Let's talk a little bit about the Romeo. I guess I could actually chime in a little bit on this because I had a little something to do with it. You know, we were looking to, when I was at Eastman, we were looking to come up with an instrument that addressed kind of the contemporary players.
Of course.
And so we, Otto and I sat down and we kicked it around quite a bit. And so the Romeo is, it was, my thoughts were long before you guys, you know, went crazy with it, was I wanted something between an L5 and a 335, you know, that would do that thing, but also something that could, you know, you could play it all night long. You could play, you know, a wedding, let's say a wedding gig where you're playing rock music at the end of the night and it's valid there, but you could do the jazz thing earlier in the evening and it'd be valid there. And so the average gigging guy could take one guitar out and get it done. And that was sort of the thought I had in my head, knowing what I knew about the jazz players that I know. And then you went to work on it, Otto. And why don't you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, it was an interesting inception, you know, drawing it out and figuring out the compromises that you have to do when you're trying to make a really versatile instrument, you know, and a lot of it, you know, worked out between your initial thought and my initial thought of the L-Ray, actually,
right?
Because I really wanted something that was portable, lightweight, ergonomic, and something that felt less like a boat anchor.
Right. Absolutely.
You know, and more like something that you would like to play multiple gigs with.
Right.
And you know, transport is something you really don't have to consider. So yeah, it's a laminate built guitar, which for a jazz guitarist might not be the first choice, but it really lends itself to being an instrument that doesn't move under humidity changes.
Right.
It's stable, very consistent. And it sounds, I mean, it does have this inherent, and I don't know what you call it, but, you know, some of the most celebrated gypsy guitars are laminate guitars. So laminates bring out a quality and pickups that, you know, it was almost a surprise all over again, you know, when we got the first samples in.
Well, I'm a big fan of laminate guitars, actually. You know, 335s are laminate guitars. And, you know, I'm a big fan of them because you can play them a little louder. They're, you know, so not only can you play them a little louder, but as you go up in volume, they maintain their tonality. Whereas resonant body or solid, they change as you go up in volume on stage. And you know, a lot of the builders that build working man's guitars, like Sadowski and Benedetto, people like that, they're working man's guitars, which is what the Romeo is. They're laminates, you know, they're all laminates. And laminate's not a four-letter word, you know, it's a good thing if it's done well and done correctly. So there's some interesting pickups and choices that were designed with Lawler in that guitar, are there not? Did we end up with those or?
Yeah, so we took the Eastman, the Lawler Imperial.
Right.
We did some tweaks to the pickup and
right.
Half wax potted them just so they have a little bit more of a, not more microphonic, but it is really more microphonic. So it does pick up the internal volume and that kind of, that sense of woodiness that you get as itself. It does have a solid wood top, which is also just great for stability because it's spruce, it's extremely, you know, stiff and strong.
And it adds resonance. It just gives it an acoustic tonal resonance that was unexpected.
Yeah.
Yep. Well, the pickup, that was the pickup that we worked with when I was there. We wanted something somewhere between a Seymour Duncan Antiquity and an Imperial, something that had a little more warmth, but we wanted the clarity as well.
Yeah.
And I think they nailed it, and it was the perfect pickup for that guitar. But the real surprise, which is, you know, this is a testament to you on that guitar, is your choice of F-hole pattern, because that's an odd choice. It's a very traditional F-hole pattern, but it works on that guitar, and people don't realize that the F-holes have an awful lot to do with the way the guitars sound.
Well, it breathes, and the F-holes, you know, they provide, you know, somewhere for the guitar to actually be an organic thing. The F-holes are the eyes of an instrument. I mean, that's where the soul of your instrument is. I mean, you look at, well, maybe you don't look at it, but your fans or your people watching you play are looking at the instrument and seeing into what you like playing.
So I'm very excited that they're out and about. For the people out there in the universe that are looking to get these guitars, they're in very, very, very short supply. So if you can get one, you're getting literally a handmade instrument. Pretty much, it's almost a custom-made handmade instrument in the numbers that they're being produced in, but they are out there. And so that's very exciting, and people will start playing them, and you'll start seeing them at shows. We're just going to make this short today to talk about that. So Otto D'Ambrosio is a master luthier himself. He makes amazing instruments, some of the finest art I've ever seen that has strings on it, amazing stuff. And so when I talk about he and John Boscarino, you know, talking back and forth, there's a true collaboration there. It isn't like John's telling Otto what to do. I mean, that these guys are both masters, and they make amazing instruments. So it's a really cool thing on both of those instruments. Dan Scatfold, heavy metal guitar player. Dan, tell us a little bit about what you do at Eastman.
Oh man, I kind of wear a lot of hats around here. At this point, I'm very involved in marketing endeavors. I'm very involved in making sure this flow of product through our shop and getting out to our dealers and customer service. And I mean, I help Otto source materials and certainly around for R&D discussions and God, what else? You know, so many things.
Well, you're being modest, actually. You know, Dan is the kind of the heart and soul of what's going on up there these days, and keeping the business end of it all. You know, somebody has to herd the cats, you know, keep them all going and keep it all moving in the right way. And someone has to have that eye to make sure everything is going the way it's supposed to be going. And I know that's what you're doing, and it feels good, and the people out there. So congratulations to you. Dan's a proud father of a couple of kids. And Otto, how many have you got?
Two as well. I got the set.
Yeah, there you go. So you guys are doing great. That's it for Jazz Guitar today, and the people at Eastman and Otto D'Ambrosio, Dan Scatfold. I want to thank you guys. So say goodbye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Thanks. See ya.